Hello, YouTube. Today I have a very special guest, my good friend, Shawn Townley. I met Shawn about maybe 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago in Toastmasters. He's a very engaging, funny speaker. He has a great masterful use of humor. He's also a project manager at Saws, and he basically is very passionate about two things that I'm passionate about: public speaking, financial literacy. Actually, you're passionate about that too. And you're also one to help people improve their lives. We're going to be talking about financial literacy and helping people become better in small steps today. So you mentioned that these are two things you're very passionate about, Shawn. How did you get into financial literacy?
Well, unfortunately, when I was young, my parents had a couple of setbacks, and so it really brought to the forefront what money was. We probably talked more about money than most families do. A lot of families, I know it's such a taboo subject. You don't know what people make and all that kind of stuff. But coming from a blue collar family, we spent some time, a lot of times in the evenings at the dinner table, talking about what real challenges the family was having, and a couple of times we got into a situation where money, there was a lot less money coming in than we were accustomed to spending. So I saw firsthand where the American dream, as everybody likes to, as the marketing world likes to put out there, you can have it now and pay later, really bites you in the ass. And so watching my family kind of go through that, it was challenging. And by the time I got to high school, I realized that I wasn't going to be a millionaire by 25, and that I was going to have to work my ass off and kind of go at it in a little bit different way. So, I mean, I think that was the start of it. Mm-hmm. And then from then on, I became pretty financially conservative at that point, looking to build a little bit of security.
Okay. And so you mentioned you had an upbringing where there was good and bad to it. You were speaking about money, which is a great thing. Some families don't speak about money. I think my family was that way. But at the same time, there were some hardships that you were dealing with. What's the biggest lesson that you learned from that, maybe in raising your family or just in general in your life?
I think the biggest thing in any family, I mean, these are your children, your people, your parents, your inner circle. You don't get to choose who they are. They just exist. Having topics that you can't talk about, I think is ridiculous, to be quite honest. I mean, these are the people you depend on for your livelihood, or they're going to depend on you for their livelihood. If you don't teach or talk about these things and work through it, I don't know how you can go out in the world not knowing how money works, or not knowing how to even if you make good money, how to defend spending too much, those types of deals, or really getting that into the mindset that just because somebody says you can have it, you don't necessarily need it. And there's some other things that I like to go into, but this world is very overwhelming. There's information coming from me at all angles. I mean, we judge in clicks now. We judge about keeping eyeballs on certain pages. Make no misunderstanding about it. Everybody's trying to sell you something all the time. I mean, that's why TV is there. That's why radio is there. That's why Facebook is there. That's why Google exists. You tell me one thing that exists and it's not trying to sell you something, and I've got a bridge in Arizona for you.
A bridge in Arizona, or a very good
ocean, whatever.
An ocean in Idaho. No, I love that. Go. That's so true. I mean, if you don't learn it from the right people, you're going to learn it on the schoolyard. That's kind of the way I see it. You'll learn it on the schoolyard. You'll learn it from the media, and the media just really wants you spending your money. So. 100%.
Well, I mean, look at what the media is now. Look at what news is now. They're just want eyeballs too. Yeah. They're selling the same ads. I mean, that's why everything got so over the top. Breaking news is like all the time. Mm-hmm. There was a time when breaking news actually meant something. Breaking news isn't even breaking news anymore. It's just, hey, let me keep you glued to the set a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's all about attention. And what do you think holds people back when it comes to their financial literacy, or just having their finances be where they want them to be? What would you say is the main thing? Or the main
I guess talking about the first part of your question, I think people want to compare themselves to other people, which I think is the wrong lens to do this, right? I mean, if you see Bill Gates over there and you want to be a bazillionaire like him, that's probably not where you need to start. If you see your friend down the street and you look on places like Facebook and you see that everybody's living their perfect life, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's always putting their best foot forward. Hey, look, I just bought a brand new car. You make assumptions like, oh, well, they must be able to afford that. I mean, surely they wouldn't spend more money than they could, or put themselves in a situation where they could hurt themselves. But it's absolutely not true. I mean, and we know this through the numbers. And so, the first thing I would tell people is, look, quit comparing yourself to other people. You have to find out what's enough for you.
Mhm. Okay. That comparison can rob people. You mentioned finding out what's enough for you. If someone asked you for advice, like say your son came to you for advice, or somebody came to you advice saying, how can I find enough? Because I feel like no matter how much I make, it's not enough. What would you tell
Yeah.
them?
What makes you happy? You need to sit down and spend some time thinking about, when do you get into a flow? Can you sit down with a guitar and play for a while and lose a couple hours? I mean, what does that cost you? It costs you a little bit of time, and we know time is money. But, or if, you know, think about the last time you made a purchase and it was over a year old that you're still passionate about. And I don't care if it's a car, a house,
Mhm.
a computer. It's amazing how quickly the newness wears off of things that are very expensive, and we're no longer satisfied. And then, of course, the media wants to tell us, or the marketing folks want to tell us that, you know what, if you don't feel good about that, come in, trade it in. We can do better. We can get you that feeling back again, that new car smell. You can get it one more time.
Yeah. It's almost like an addiction. I never thought about it that way. But
Oh, it's absolutely an addiction. I mean, it's all about getting the pleasure sensors in the brain to light up, right?
yeah. Yeah. And I want to ask you a question going into specifics. What's something that you've bought before that did give you that passion and that joy for a long period of time? And then on the other side, what's something that you've bought where they brought you no joy at all, like you thought it would?
I would say recently, back in 2016, I bought a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
It and I love that thing. I mean, in fact, it'll be paid off in a couple months. And the only reason why I didn't pay it off earlier is because my rate is so freaking low. I mean, the cost of money right now is so cheap
Mhm.
that I was actually going to lose money paying cash for it. But every time I get in that thing, it brings a smile to my face when I take the top off. When it's a nice cool day, I just love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. It's probably one of the best, non-people investments I've ever done in my life.
That's awesome.
Something that I've absolutely, spent a lot of money on and then almost instantly regret it, have been, other things like computers, or even other vehicles. I mean, vehicles that, will get you down the road. They're a little bit newer. They smell new for a little while, but you're like, I still go to work. I still go to, out and these types of deals. I, I actually stop and think weird things like, I look around and I see their cars and I think about how 80% of the cars on the road are just meh. They all look like each other. They're all kind of the same color.
Yeah.
Is anyone looking at these cars? I mean, other than the sports cars, the high end stuff, maybe the top 5%, is anybody looking at these things and going, wow, I wish I was them driving that?
Yeah.
No.
It's rarely,
No.
maybe with a Maserati or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but Maserati, not everybody's going down to the Kia store and getting a Maserati, right? So
Yeah. Maybe you could get some deals there on your mod next. Very good. And when it comes to financial literacy, what is something that you think everyone should know? I mean, you talked about enough, but what's something like just more technical that you think everyone should know about their money?
I just completed a money basics series that'll start coming out next month. I'm gonna release it on a weekly basis. It's a 10-part series, but if there's one takeaway from that series, I'd like folks to really go with, it's the 50-30-20 rule,
Okay.
where when you bring home $100, $50 goes for your essentials, your food, clothing, shelter, and I'm not talking about eating out. I'm talking about groceries. I'm talking about living in a house where you feel at least safe, but not in the best neighborhoods, those types of deals. 30% being wants, where you get that lifestyle kind of boost to it, where you go into the better, you get the better car, you get the better neighborhood, those types of deals, but those are wants and understanding that they're wants. And then the 20%, which is really on top, it's the first $20 is savings, paying yourself first. I mean, I think paying yourself first is one thing that Americans don't do a good job at.
Yeah. Okay. So 50% goes to necessities, you said?
Yeah, essentials, what I call essentials.
Essentials. 30% goes to what?
Wants. So
One,
those are the lifestyle dollars, right? Those are the things that if I want a jet ski, it comes out of those dollars.
or to go out to eat. Would that be considered a want? Like I want to go
Yeah, I think going out to eat is a luxury. I mean, if you're going to stop and get something for a couple bucks, that's one thing. But if you want to have a nice steak dinner, then yeah, I think that's truly a luxury at that point.
Okay. And then you said 20% goes to yourself. Or
Right.
how would you allocate that 20%? It might be different depending on life stages, but what are some ideas for what you could do for that 20% that you keep for yourself?
Yeah. So 20% also has its own buckets. I mean, the first bucket you need to fill is called the emergency fund. That's the first. I would say for most people, that's probably $1,000. That's $1,000 cash you can get your hands on within a day or two. I mean, it's going to be sitting in a savings account. It may be sitting. Some people may put it under their mattress. It doesn't really matter. It needs to be $1,000 you can quickly get to in case you need to have tires replaced on your car. If you have a washing machine that goes out. If you have truly emergency type situation. This isn't fun money. This isn't anything else. I think after you have your emergency fund built, you need to max out your retirement. So this is if you work for an employer, if they're giving you any sort of match, you need to match that dollar for dollar to make sure that you're not leaving any money on the table.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, I would suggest maybe going to a Roth IRA, something that you could get back to the principal if you need to. And I'll let Joseph explain more about that kind of stuff. And then once you've got your retirement, I would say between 10 to 15% in the beginning. I mean, ideally you would do more. I mean, some of that would come out of your wants money. Then you start building wealth. I think you truly start to invest in stocks, become an owner, and think about passive income, which is another part of the series I talk about. Passive income is a big deal because you no longer are actively working for your money. Your money starts to work for you, which is where the real magic starts to happen.
I love that. Yeah. You take your time out of the equation. I see it as graduation. That's why I've been seeing it recently. You graduate from where you're having to always trade your time to money to starting to have your money save you time and your money make you money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. And you mentioned you have this series coming out. Do you know when it's coming out? Because I can put it up, depending on when we release this, I can put it up on the screen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start that Tuesday. So December 1st, I think the first installment will come out.
Tuesday, December 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll come out every Tuesday. An episode will come out, and it's 5 minutes or less. It's a 5-minute thought production. I wanted to make sure it was in small bite-sized pieces where people didn't feel like they were going to a seminar. I want you to be able to just download it to your device and watch it and go, and hopefully rewatch it and ask your friends to watch it.
Awesome. 5 minutes or less every Tuesday. Look out for that. And I'll put a link up here so you can check out Shawns channel every Tuesday.
Yeah.
I like that. If you could only teach your kids one thing about money, what would that be?
Start early.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to pay yourself first and start early and let that money start working for you. I mean, the one thing, and my kids are 17 and 21 right now. By the time they're 40 and 50, I mean, a very small percentage should be them actively having to work for their money if they do it the right way. Now, don't get me wrong. If you love your job, by all means, stay active. I'm not saying active income is bad. We all have to start somewhere, but it should be done for passionate reasons and not because, oh my God, it's Monday and I have to go to work. I mean, that to me, that's the prison that most of us live in, is the fact that I have to go work for somebody else to make everything else work.
Yeah.
I have to have enough money to make things just to live. I mean, we're the only animals on this planet that do that.
Yeah. It costs money for us to live.
Yeah. My dogs have no idea what money is. They just know they live a good life. So.
Maybe treats, like a barter system with treats.
Oh, man, they trade a little bit of love and they get everything. So.
But as humans, I think we can do that too. I don't know if I'm going off base or shooting here, but we can trade our passion, our love for what we love doing for money and security for the future. I think that. I don't know if that's hopeful.
Well, so here's this, Joseph. I mean, let's say that everybody followed the 50-30-20. No one spent more than they made.
Yeah.
We have unlimited resources. Money could theoretically go Star Trek, where it doesn't really even need to exist anymore.
Yeah.
I think we could have universal resources for everyone. I think there's plenty to go around.
Mhm.
I think right now it gets really jacked up in the percentages where, the top 5% own, 80% of everything. I mean, why? What are they going to do with it?
Yeah.
There's enough to go around. The scarcity mentality, I think, is the biggest problem, is that everybody's thinking, I got to get mine. I got to get mine. Instead of thinking, hey, I can get mine with just following a simple formula like 50, 30, 20.
Mhm.
And then there is enough to go around. I don't have to hoard. And that goes into the whole, what is enough? Is $1 million enough? Is $5 million enough? Well, it depends on what you're trying to do. But if you're serving other people's needs, $100,000 a year may be enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned two things there, which I was interested in. The scarcity mentality. I think I see that that's very common. A scarcity mentality, I believe, is very common. I'll talk about the scarcity mentality, but I want to ask you about how they went from a moneyless society in Star Trek, because I'm curious about that.
Well, I don't know that I could explain that
Okay.
in just a simple interview, but I mean, basically we get to a point where the idea is that technology gets us to the point where everyone's basic needs are taken care of, right?
Yeah.
The problem is we're still human and we still want what the other person has. And so that causes conflict, right? And so we think that if I'm winning, then other people need to be losing. And that's just, it's kind of silly when you think about that. If you have to win at someone else's expense, then there truly is not enough to go around. But I can't think of one example where someone can win and everyone else has to lose. Why is it a zero-sum game?
Yeah. Well, I'm curious why you think that's such a prevalent belief, that it is a scarcity mentality. Is it upbringing? Is it just what we see on the media? Like, what causes so many people to believe, in order to win, I have to go take advantage of some other people, or I have to take from somebody?
Honestly, it's a little dark, kind of where maybe social media has taken us, because everybody does put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think a lot of people sit around thinking that everybody else has got it figured out except for me. And it creates this where I'm starting to rely on external people to acknowledge me, to like me, and those types of deals. And if I can't get that feel good, if I can't get people to acknowledge that, hey, I'm okay,
Yeah.
then there seems to be this real need to continue to be wanted. And one way you do that is you go out and you spend money and you try to make yourself look better. So you look like those pretty people that are on, your social media.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, right? Because if you're expecting to get joy from external things, I don't think you'll ever truly be happy. And I think it does boil down to happiness. And so when people learn that they can be happy within as an internal, I start with happy and then I go out through the day. I'm going to make somebody else smile and that's going to make me happy. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
Not, hey, if I have the new Xbox and I can play the newest game and kick that dude's ass that's been talking trash to me, then that's happiness. But what happens is when you buy the new Xbox and you're like, oh, now I don't have enough beer and taco money, right? But then I get online and I beat that guy. It lasts for what, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, the all of that time, all that resources, all that wanting to get somewhere, you meet that, you check that box, and then poof, you're no longer happy, and you have to find the next quest.
Yeah. It's almost like we're chasing a high that we felt as kids when we got, like, maybe when I got a PS2 or a PS1 or whatever.
Absolutely.
But it's not the same. It's like nowadays, like I've lived both sides. I've lived like happiness within and then happiness from the external world. And I remember buying stuff to impress people, like impress the salespeople. And it was just such a fake feeling. And it was just like, it wouldn't last at all. And it was just,
right.
And it was like, you knew they were just like pretending that you're important, but you're really not that important just because you're buying something. Any comments on that? On like that difference, or how you can switch from one end to the other?
Well, I'll tell you that I'm still struggling with it. I mean, I think as humans, we want people to accept us. I think part of the human experiment is wanting people to like us and love us. I don't know that ever goes away. But another example of dealing with an external stimulant to make me happy is sports teams. I love watching sports. I love watching baseball and football and basketball. And it kind of amazes me that as a logical person that I can watch my team lose and I feel so bad about it. I
Yeah.
had nothing to do with it,
Yeah.
right? Or the opposite is true, where they win a big game or even their championship, and it's like, wow, this is amazing, and now I can go around saying that they won forever, but I'm happy for a few days. I try to watch all the things that happen, but at the end of the day, I had no real part in it other than I was a fan. I spent time watching them play a game that they make a lot of money at.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. We often look for the external, and we have another topic here, but I want to ask you just another question on this. And I think we could do a smooth transition to the next topic.
Okay.
If someone is having trouble, say someone is self-aware enough and they notice I have a scarcity mentality. I believe that in order for me to make money, I have to, like, my money determines my worth. If they came to you with that, what would you tell them so they could go towards like the internal happiness versus the external happiness?
This is where the nerd in me starts to sit down with them and say, look, then if you're going to have to quantify what success and happiness looks like, then bring your pen and paper, because we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about what it's going to take to fill that 20% bucket, that 30% bucket, and that 50% bucket. So, I mean, if you're truly going to hang your hat on that, then we're going to have to sit down and figure out ways, if you want to make $100,000 a year, how you get there, whether it's through a side hustle, going to work for somebody else. What skills do you need? I mean, you're going to have to go to school. You're going to have to get certified. You're going to have to possibly get licensed. I mean, if it were easy, then anybody would do it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but you have to figure out what you're going to invest your time in, because the fact of the matter is we all have the same amount of time. We may have different amounts of wealth. We may have different amounts of happiness. We all have 24 hours in a day. So whether you're a billionaire, whether you're Elon Musk, or you're the dude that you saw on the corner holding the sign, they have exactly the same amount of time. So time is the only place that we can start to try to build whatever equation to happiness that you have.
Very good. Very good. And any other lessons, any other takeaways you want to leave us with when it comes to financial literacy?
I think the final lesson is this: money's a tool. It's not a means to an end, right? Money doesn't do anything. It's neutral. It's not good. It's not evil. Okay. It's just a way to keep score, but it's not even really money that people love. It's what money can do for them, right? What services and goods they can get.
Yeah.
And if you can figure out what happiness is for you, the money will take care of itself, right? So you'll figure out ways to do that, whether it's bartering or going out and earning, or even developing passive income strategies. Money is just a scoring system. That's all it is.
Very good. Thank you. And then our next topic here, something you said you're very passionate about, is helping people become better in very small steps. So helping people improve their lives. How is that? How did you get into that? How did you find that that was a good fit for you in your life?
Well, I like efficiency. I like going back to the point that we only have so many hours in a day. How do you want to spend those hours?
Yeah.
What is the smallest level of investment you can put into something and continue to improve? One of the things that I've always struggled with my entire life is my weight. So I've been successful in many different areas of my life, but the one that just always constantly is my biggest nemesis is my weight. So I'm constantly looking for ways to work in a few push-ups, or recover from an accident that I recently had, or find ways that I can do the least amount to get the maximum results.
Yeah.
Well, that gets into habit stacking. There's a lot of good authors out there that talk about these sort of things, and for me, the common was always the financial piece, because we all have to think about money at some point. The only people that don't have to think about money are people that grew up with, that were so talented that they're in a bubble and everybody takes care of it for them. But 99.9999% of us do have to worry about it. And so the financial literacy kind of led to the other things. So once you even have your money in place, if you don't have your health, you can't take it with you, right? If you're not getting to the next level, or if you're not helping this world become a better place, then what's the point of existing? You're just taking up space on a planet, right, with 7 billion other people.
Yeah.
So the passionate part is that I think we can always do better. I think to get to that Star Trek phase that we were talking about earlier, where we can reach a minimum level where everyone's needs are truly taken care of, and we are only worried about what our life work is going to be and the things that we're passionate about to make the human race a better place, right? So
Very good. And when it comes to helping people become better, what's an example? You don't have to give names if you don't want to, but what's an example of someone or a story where you did help someone or make a transformation in their lives and really improve where they were?
it amazes me to this day. And one of the things that I'm going to be working on pretty soon is just a basic spreadsheet where people can track where their money goes. I'm not talking about budgets. I mean, people hate the word budget, but just having a money plan where if you have money come in, you can, assign, assignments to that money that's going to go out. So many people don't even budget. They don't write down their goals.
Yeah.
How do you go through life not knowing where you're going to land? Right. So I forget who said it, but if, wherever you're heading, you're going to end up there. Right. But if you don't have any kind of forethought into what that's going to look like, you're going to end up nowhere. And you're going to wonder how another 10 years passed and you're no better off than you were. You got to have a plan.
Yeah. Got to have a plan. Very good. And okay. So what's an example of that? I know you've mentored a lot of people in Toastmasters. Are there any examples of specifically like where you worked with someone and help them improve? I've seen you do it before. I know you have.
So in Toastmasters, the thing that's there is, and I love Toastmasters. I recommend that to anyone. Mm-hmm. The thing that Toastmasters does better than anything else is gives you feedback. Because a lot of things we do in life, even spending money, we don't get the feedback, right? We only know what we think about it, but we don't know what other people think about it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest recommendations when I'm working with people, especially when they're trying to do public speaking or anything like that, is record yourself. Mm-hmm. Look at yourself. A lot of times, I would say over half of people that I ask to do that go, "Ooh, no, I don't want to see me on camera." And I'm like, if you don't want to see you on camera, why do you think anybody else wants to see you on camera? Yeah. And that little light bulb comes on, right? So it's like, oh, but you want to be a public speaker, but you don't want to watch yourself. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster right there. So I encourage people to look, where it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's not comfortable. Listen to yourself on tape. Listen to yourself. Watch yourself in a video, and just get out there and do it. And we know through mastery, through a book we read, even with Hustle and Know, you have to do it a bazillion times. I mean, you have to do it until you don't even think about doing it anymore. And you have to grow those muscles in different places. And it's not comfortable. It's not easy.
Yeah. I want to shout out Hustle and Know. I don't know if I put that in the intro, but we do a book club together discussing self-development books. And you can check out the channel above if you want to check that out. And we've had some great discussions on a lot of different books. I think we're masters of self-development now. We just know everything. Because we read so many.
I like to think we are.
Okay. And you mentioned recording yourself. What was that like when you first recorded yourself? I just want to share real quick. I remember in college, we had an assignment in a speech class to give a speech and record ourselves and say what we thought about it. And I probably shouldn't admit this, but I was too scared to look at myself on that video. And I just made it up based on memory, what I thought I needed to improve, but I couldn't bring myself to actually watch the video of myself speaking.
It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all.
So any advice for people in that situation? And what's something that you noticed right away? I'm sure there's glaring things you noticed the first time you record yourself in your own speaking.
Wow. That's what I look like to everyone else.
Yeah.
That's what I sound like to everyone else. I mean, I can't imagine the technology is lying, right? So we sound different in our own heads than we do when we hear ourselves being recorded. Mm-hmm. The thing about it is that you are your worst critic. You're going to pick out everything because you know you better than anyone else. Yeah. Everyone else there is just kind of being entertained. Yeah. To put it in perspective, think about the last 10 people you've talked to. Mm-hmm. I bet you can't tell me what half of them are wearing.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, or hell, you may not even remember their names. I mean, we are so focused, and then we forget things. I mean, there's so much information coming at us. Mm-hmm. Do you realize? I mean, I was looking at this just today. Hustle and Know has over 38 videos out right now.
Yeah.
Right. And we still have not that many subscribers. I mean, just to get seen on YouTube, right? You have to put out like a bazillion videos, right? So, I mean, so you're worried about one video being perfect. Oh my gosh, man. Go look at some of the greats out there, some of the big YouTube stars, and then go look back at their first videos.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because it's like, no one's perfect coming out of the gate doing this.
Yeah. I mean, that is such a great, I know you're going to be doing YouTube. Julie's doing YouTube, our friend Julie Moore. That's such a great tip, I think, is just to check out like Joe Rogan's first video. It is sloppy. It is so sloppy.
Yeah. I mean, but who cares? Right?
Yeah. Gary Vaynerchuk, his first video, it's kind of like awkward. We all start off somewhere, and it's kind of like you learn it by doing it, little baby steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And very good. I think you mentioned something that just popped in my head. I wanted to talk about it. You mentioned we see the best of what's going on in people's lives. We see the Instagram posts. My friend just bought a Porsche. We don't see him fighting with his girlfriend. We don't see that stuff. Like no one's recording that, very few people, maybe crazy people. What do you think is the cure for that? What that leads to? Because that leads to kind of a mentality of, I think, lack. How do you think people can cure that? Like, what type of conversation should we be having that would change society where that wasn't so common?
I wish we weren't going through, the COVID right now,
Yeah.
because I think the best way to get out of that is to, invite people to coffee or go to a restaurant and just have real conversations and not feel like that you have to be on your best behavior the entire time.
Yeah.
I think people really get to know each other, but it takes time. I think we all kind of put up fronts, and I think some of us are better at it than the others.
Mm-hmm.
But it's having real human conversations, probably in person. I think that the digital thing is cool for safety reasons and those types of deals. But to be honest, the reason why I'm doing YouTube is not necessarily because I'm trying to have conversations that are, I want to build legacy stuff. I want to be able to chronicle some of the things that I'm doing right now. I'm not necessarily looking to make sales, right? I want to speak in front of people, which is very difficult to do right now. I want to be able to consult with people. I want to write a book and those types of things. But at the end of the day, if no one's getting better on what I'm saying, then there's no point to it. I do okay in my day job, but what I really want to do is not have a day job and be able to help people full time.
Yeah. So really it's about helping people. And I think that's such a great mindset to have. Maybe we start things for selfish reasons, like, I want to make money. I want to get a bunch of subscribers. And sometimes I catch myself thinking that, like, I want to get to 100. I want to get to 200 subscribers. But at the end of the day, there's no point in getting to any number of subscribers if you didn't help anybody.
But to what end, right? So let's say you have 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
What does that really mean? Does that just mean your influence, your circle is this big?
Yeah.
What is it? What are those 1,000 subscribers are they going to be your army and go out and make things happen good in the world after that?
Yeah. It depends on.
Are they never leaving the couch?
Yeah. It really depends on how you build it. Like, it could mean like you have a group of people who's helping each other grow and get better, or it could just mean like there's just a bunch of psychos on your side who will tear people down. You
have a zombie army is what you have.
Zombie army. Yeah. It's almost like a social credit system. It almost goes back to money. Money plays with a lot of our emotions. So does these social media metrics. They're almost like their own form of money. We even get a dopamine hit every time we see it. What's a way of overcoming that? If that's the dimension we're on right now, right? It's kind of seeing things in terms of like, this is how much money I have. This is how much influence I have. What's the step above that? If someone wanted to rise above that and kind of think on a higher plane, what advice would you give them? If that question.
I think you have to set aside time for feedback. I think you have to be a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to, when you work with someone, I think you need to give them feedback and say, hey, we set this goal. All right, we reached this goal. What happened good? What happened bad? To give people feedback. I don't think we give enough feedback. The feedback loop isn't fast enough, right? We put a video out there and, if somebody doesn't tell us we're pretty within a week, it depresses us, right? But that's looking for the external, right? Yeah. Whereas if I said, hey, Joseph, I'll be your mentor, you put out a video after a week, let's talk about why people aren't telling you pretty, you're pretty. I mean, is it because, we haven't gotten enough YouTube cred or whatever? I mean, could we market better? Could we put things in the description? Are there ways that we could be, promoting ourselves to get better?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we can just create and stand back and wait for everybody to come. It's not the field of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You make it and then people come. I think you have to hustle. I mean, I think that's one thing we've learned is we got to get out there and be our own engines, and get people driving. Hey, what have you done to help someone else to promote their video? And then let them cross-reference you so that you get to a bigger audience, as opposed to just putting something out in a vacuum. And then that's kind of what we're doing here, right? I mean, we want to help promote each other. Mm-hmm. If you get enough people doing that, then we get closer to that Star Trek world.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's all about win-win situations, whether it's money, in anything. You want to create as much value for other people as you can, and money is just a byproduct of that. If money is not something that you're just like stealing from orphans, I don't know. That's the mentality. We're just gonna steal.
Gosh, I hope. Yeah.
No, it's like create value. Like I always think of the richest man in Babylon when they're building a palace, and it's like the construction workers get paid, whatever they were called back then. The architect gets paid. The person who owns the land, their value of the land goes up. The value of the real estate goes up. Someone gets a place to live. It's like there's value being multiplied in like so many different directions when you're actually, that's the best way to make money, basically. You can do short-term games or you can do long-term. I feel like there's a common thread here, but you mentioned you love helping people. And I want to ask you if you have any stories about that, or if you have any stories about someone who helped you and maybe inspired you to be passionate about that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people over time that have kind of helped steer me in this direction. I mean, my parents, my uncle, I've had mentors over the years that have told me things like, when you're spending the company's money, you should treat it like it's your own, because it is, especially if you're an employee stock owner, those types of deals. I mean, things that people don't, it's not natural. You're not going to come out and just think about those types of deals. I mean, think about this, right? We go through school and we're told that you need money, you need more of it because you need to buy these things, because we're constantly getting bombarded. But no one tells you how to get a job. No one tells you what to do with that first paycheck. No one tells you how you set up a budget, or how you or a spending plan, or what you should be doing to make yourself feel secure in the process. They only told you need more of it. You need to get a job. You need to go to college. You need to pay your taxes and be a good citizen. There's no manual for that.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no manual. And there's 100 different ways you can do it. And I think, we need to get better at making money less taboo. Mm-hmm. I think we should be able to talk about money more openly than we do. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be, hey, I make $130,000. You make what, 80? What are you, some sort of loser or something? I mean, we need to get rid of all that crap. We need to get rid of all the differences out there in the way that we do this, and teach some very basic financial literacy things so that everybody, I don't care what color, socioeconomic class, gender, gender identified, those types of deals. We all have the same challenges when it comes to those types of deals. And it's beyond money. I mean, it's how to buy a car. It's how to, and we have that knowledge. I think you had mentioned at one point that we have so much knowledge. We have too much knowledge, right? It's everything's out there. What do you act on? Mm-hmm. How do you pull it in, and how do you apply it? It's the application of the knowledge at this point that really becomes the biggest challenge. And you get paralysis through analysis. I mean, I think even YouTube causes that. So
yeah, too many choices. It's hard to choose. I know sometimes I go to restaurants and they have like 100 different things on the item. I'm just, what do you recommend?
Fear of missing out, right? If I choose this, and I'll get to choose that. I mean, so
yeah,
I'll just stick with what I know, because I'm boring.
Very good. And what if you could change the school system and what we're learning in school? What's one thing you would add to it? Like something specifically, not something very general, like how to be rich, but like what's one thing you would add if you could only add one thing to what kids are taught in school?
I would start really trying to bring in that feedback system earlier, right? Where it's more peer review, so that it becomes comfortable at a younger age for us to give each other feedback, much like Toastmasters. I would make all of the assignments to where you have to do them in front of people, so we get comfortable talking in front of others. And then I would challenge the students that are listening to give feedback right away, instant feedback. What's going to happen is, after a while, in my opinion, and this is not scientific at all, is that everyone's going to have to stand in front of their peers, right? So it's, in the beginning, it may be that people are like picking on you and heckling you, but as soon as they get up, they're not going to want that to happen. And there's going to be this feedback that's going to start happening. It's also going to encourage us, because school's the only place I know of where you have to sit in your own desk and come up with the answers all by yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's not real life. In real life, I can call up anybody I want and get me to help with a problem I'm having, right? If I need to solve a calculus problem today, there's no teacher, that's going to let me talk to Sally next to me. When in the real world, I can absolutely talk to Sally, I can talk to Joseph, and anybody else I want to solve that problem. I don't have to be the expert at everything.
Yeah.
I don't have to be academic. So I think if we start moving our social structure to where it's more communicative, and it's more, everybody kind of helps each other to get to a mutual goal, as opposed to, this is your education, this is your score, and I'm going to compare you to everyone else in the classroom. That's crap. That's not the real world. I mean,
but people get stuck in that loop, though. That kind of creates that scarcity mentality again.
Yes, absolutely. Because, only so many people are going to college, and then those college people, only so many people are going to graduate valedictorian. And then of those, they're going to get the best jobs. And, crap. It's crap. It's telling me about how you're not going to get there unless you do this. Yeah. There's all kinds of ways to win in life.
So many. Yeah. I really like that. One thing you had mentioned is legacy. So I'm going to ask you a few final questions. What do you want your legacy to be? So how do you want to be remembered, either regarding these topics or just in general? Shawn.
I would love to be able to leave some content behind that would be as, true 1,000 years from now as it is today. I mean, one of the things I love about The Richest Man in Babylon is that it just works, right? How old is that book? And that knowledge still works. I don't think it has to be complicated. It's not rocket science. It just has lasted the test of time. And I would love to be able to put just a few nuggets of knowledge that if people throughout the years picked it up, whether it's reading a book or, if I can establish a foundation that helps people move in that direction, that they just say, hey, that guy was pretty cool. He helped make the world a little bit better place.
Awesome. Very good. Again, I'm going to put your channel up on the screen up there. People can check it out. Be sure to subscribe. I'm sure it's going to be amazing content every Tuesday. And I want to ask you, what's one final thing that you want to leave our audience with? If you could just leave them with one important message, what would that be?
Stay curious. Keep learning. There's no reason to be bored. No one should ever be bored. Something should be always curious in your mind. You should always be wanting to understand how something else works. Once you get started down that path, you're going to run out of time very quickly.
Very good. Stay curious. Keep learning. You're either growing or you're falling behind.
You're dying.
You're dying. Yeah. So awesome. Some great messages there. I think the main thread of it is really that communication can really save the world. If we were more vulnerable with each other, if I said, hey, I messed up once with money and I used to make a lot of mistakes, but now I've learned that my self-worth isn't tied up to my money. We could help a lot of people with that, but people don't want to do it because it's kind of scary to do that. So we want to be like, look at my Lambo that I bought, instead of helping people. So I love that. Some great messages. Thank you very much for being with me. So Shawn Townley has his own YouTube channel, which you can check out above. He's a member of the Hustle and Know podcast, where we discuss self-development books. And he's just a great all-around guy. I consider him a mentor. I've asked him questions sometimes about different topics regarding my speaking, different things I do. So make sure you learn from what he said today. And bye-bye.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.